Hi, today I'm going to talk to you about an iconic houseplant, the peace lily. She's elegant, she's dramatic, but she's also a little bit of a diva. She also taught me a lot about houseplant care. I'm going to share with you the care tips that I've learned along the way, the challenges that I've faced, and also how I eventually moved her over into semi-hydro. So first of all, I think we should talk about light, especially as we're in England, we don't get a lot of it. So you might want to position a peace lily in bright indirect sunlight, and by that I mean you don't want to put it right in the window where the sun can scorch the leaves, but also if you put it too far away from the window and it doesn't get enough light, then you won't get these beautiful flowers. They're actually not called flowers, but for today's purposes we'll call them flowers, but you won't get these beautiful flowers that are coming up. And so yes, a peace lily does like nice bright light, but not bright sunlight. I must admit that one of the areas where I struggled with a peace lily when I first got it was watering. So now the peace lily, when I said it's a diva, I really meant it, because if you water it too much, the leaves droop. If you water it too little, the leaves droop. It is prone to rot if the soil is too soggy, but it also doesn't like the soil to dry out completely, which is why I put it into semi-hydro, which I'll talk about a little bit later. When it comes to the type of water, the best is rainwater. If you're like me and you have the benefit of having a water butt outside and you can collect your rainwater, then a peace lily will love you for it. But there's a lot of us that don't have that benefit, and so what you could do is use normal tap water but leave it standing overnight so that the chlorine and the chemicals can dissipate out of the water. Or another way is, once you've boiled the kettle, once the water is cooled down, the cool water from the kettle, feel free to put that in a watering can and to water your peace lily. But it doesn't like chlorine. It'll get brown tips. I learned that the hard way. Talking about brown tips, one of the other causes of brown tips on a peace lily are drafts. Now, as you can see, I keep this close to this door over here, which isn't ideal. It's not its normal home. I normally keep it upstairs in my landing by a bright window. However, we're decorating at the moment. There's a lot going on. My husband's redoing all the electrics, so this is where it'll stay for now. But as you can see, some of the leaves are already suffering ill effects. So every time I go outside to collect water from the water butt, it's in a draft. So it's not ideal. So you want to keep it away from drafts. The other thing that a peace lily really loves is humidity. Now here it's not so difficult because I've always got the clothes area up, and with wet clothes it keeps the humidity high in this room. But if you're in a dry area, or if you have the space you want to put it is near a radiator, I don't recommend that, because it really does like a higher amount of humidity. The other option obviously is to get a humidifier, but not all of us want the ugly sight of a humidifier going off. But yeah, do be prepared to suffer brown tips if you can't keep the humidity up a little bit. Now, when it comes to replanting your peace lily, it likes soil that's a bit more free draining. So sometimes the houseplant soil that you get from a garden centre can be a little bit loomy, a little bit thick. So I recommend adding a little bit of perlite or even some bark or something in there that will loosen the soil a little bit around the roots, because a peace lily likes its roots to breathe a bit more than some other houseplants. Hi, so let me introduce you to my other peace lily. Now, forgive the condition of it. I am I'm sure like you, a lot of you, I'm a potty plant lady. I'm not a perfect plant lady. But 2 years ago, these were one plant and it was outgrowing its pot. And at that time, I was struggling to keep up with this little diva's moods. So I thought, well, let me plant half of it into leca and the other half of it into soil. So now I can show you the difference between one that's in soil and one that's in leca. Now, I'm not saying that it's not possible to have a healthy plant like this in soil. I am saying that putting it into leca does make your life a little bit easier, because this is in a water reservoir, which I'll show you in a minute, which you only need to attend to sort of once every 3 to 4 weeks, whereas this you have to attend to every few days, or at least every 10 days. And the result as well is brown leaves, brown tips, all of those kind of things. I also found that being in leca, because you can control the fertilizer better in the water that you feed it, this flowers non-stop. This has been flowering continuously. As soon as a flower dies, another one starts. This hasn't flowered in the whole 2 years that since it's been potted into this basket. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to finally release this poor plant from its soil base and put it into leca, and I'm going to show you how I did that, and it's the exact same process as I did for this one. So I want to remove any dead or dying leaves, so I've got some isopropyl alcohol here, which I'm going to use to disinfect the secateurs or the cutters that I'm using. Now, isopropyl alcohol will kill any bacteria or fungal spores or anything that might be on the cutters, because you don't want to transfer them to the plant. And then you want to remove any yellow leaves or leaves at the bottom that are looking a little bit tired or limp, or that have brown tips on. Any leaf basically that is going to detract from the beauty of your plant. So I've got a bowl and I'm going to put this compostable bag in it, because I want to be able to throw the soil away. I won't be reusing it. So I'll put that in there, and I'm going to remove the plant from its pot. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to gently remove as much of the soil as we possibly can, and gently tease the roots out. Now it is inevitable that some of the roots are going to get damaged, and you know what, when I did this before and the roots got damaged, it didn't harm the plant at all. It just obviously for the first few months will dedicate some of its time to repairing those roots, so there won't be much growth in the plant. But over time, once the roots have repaired and gone back to their usual healthy state, it can then focus the energy onto actually growing a beautiful plant for you. The roots on this are actually quite healthy. I'm quite surprised actually. It's not doing as bad as I thought it was, because the foliage hasn't looked great over the last few months, I must say. So the roots are quite compacted, so I don't want to damage the roots too much further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently run some warmish water over it from the tap. Now I've put a bowl underneath, because you really don't want to get soil down your drains. So you want to have a bowl to capture all the soil. I want the water to be warm. I don't want it to be ice cold because it'll shock the plants. And you just want to get as much of the soil off as possible without getting soil down your drain, because that will end up blocking the drain, and nobody wants to have to pay a plumber to come out and sort out that. I've got as much of the soil off here as possible. The roots actually don't look bad at all. I'm not too worried about soil within these roots, because what I'll do is for the first few months is when I do water it, I'll water it from the top so that it can rinse through the semi-hydro, and then in time the rest of the soil will leak out, but it won't harm the plant too much in the meantime. There's enough roots here to keep it happy. Now, what I'm going to use this time, last time I used what's called lacquer. Now lacquer, it stands for lightweight expanded clay aggregate. It's basic, very lightweight, as it states in the name, but it also has all these like little pores in it, and those help not only to wick the water up and spread from one ball to the next, but they also allow the roots to adhere to it nicely and grow into it. So and they also have lots of air pockets around them, and that keeps a plant very happy, especially a peace lily, because they like their roots to have air circulating around the roots. But today I'm going to actually plant it into semi-hydro. Now semi-hydro is similar. It's not clay based, it's other aggregate. Don't ask me all the ins and outs of it, because I'm not an aficionado. I just know that this, similarly, it's got zeolite, it's got lava rock, but similarly it's been heated to a high temperature to get it expanded and make it more lightweight. But again, similar to the lacquer, it wicks up moisture from your water reservoir, which I'll show you all of this in a minute, but it also allows the roots to breathe. Now I'm curious to see in a year or two which of these peace lilies will look best, the one that's in lacquer or the one that's in semi-hydro. So yeah, the first thing we need to do though is, this is quite dusty, we've got to rinse this off, and again I'm going to rinse it over the sink, but not getting the water in the pipes, because that means plumber's bills, and we don't want that. Pour the lacquer into the sieve here, not lacquer, this semi-hydro mix that I bought from Soil Ninja. And I'm going to rinse it under the tap, and you'll see what I mean when you see all the dust that comes out of it. It's quite mucky when it first comes, but when it starts to run clean, then you know it's okay to start using. So I like recycling, and I've got an old nursery pot here which I'll pot my peace lily in. So I just want to measure to make sure, see how much room it's got at the bottom. So that's a good inch that I can put the semi-hydro in. It was at this point that I realized I didn't have a cache pot big enough for this this nursery pot. So off I went with my husband to try and find a pot suitable. I also had to consider the color scheme that I've got, that I'm going to have in my living room when it's decorated, and I wanted to go with greens. So this pot seemed perfect at the time, the right color, but not quite the right fit for the nursery pot. You can see I'm even asking my husband if what does he think, but they don't give us their opinion, they're too scared to. And voila, I found the perfect pot. So that was lovely. So I've rinsed some more here because I didn't have enough. So what you want to do is, as you pot it, just give the pot a bit of a shake so you can make sure that all the substrate goes down into all the nooks and crannies. Get it all through the roots. We want it covered up. Maybe just a little bit more. Right. That should be perfect now. I'm going to get rid of this. Clean up a little bit. I'm going to give it one more rinse through from the tap. So I've collected some water from the water butt and I've let it get to room temperature. So I've left it overnight because it's very cold out there at the moment and I don't want to shock the roots of the plant. And following the instructions, this is hydroponic plant fertilizer. I wouldn't recommend a fertilizer that's not hydroponic, because the ones that go into soil are formulated to react with the soil and the bacteria that are in the soil. So they effectively feed the bacteria, which in fact then will feed the soil with their waste. So hydroponic is much better option. Because if you put normal fertilizer in there, it won't have the same effect. It is also really important to follow the instructions on the bottle, because you don't want to over fertilize your plants. These apparently, I don't know how accurate it is, but the blooms can turn the sickly green color if it's over fertilized. So I think I must have given this one a little bit too much fertilizer at some stage. So I'll have to maybe regulate the dose a little bit there and make it a little bit weaker than what it says on the bottle. The other thing that I like to put in, because I've researched this a little bit, is apparently a little bit of silica. Silica in the water helps to calm the roots down after traumatic, because if you can imagine repotting, it's quite a traumatic experience for the roots. So this calms it down. This reinforces it. Also, as it gets absorbed by the plant, it apparently strengthens the cell structure within the leaves and within the stem. So you end up with a healthier plant. It's not too expensive. A little bottle like this will last you years and years, because you literally put 1 ml per liter. It's not a lot. And if it's going to help the plant and make it stronger and more resilient, then I'm all for that. So I'm going to put 2 ml of the silica into the water. I've got my pipette here. I do love a pipette because you can really accurately put in the exact amount that you want to put in there. Let's have a look. That's a little bit less. Right. 2 ml. And in that goes. And then the fertilizer. This says 5 ml per litre. I'm going to actually put 4 ml per litre because I want to dilute it a little bit, because I think the 5 ml per litre for this particular plant is maybe a bit too strong. House care, keeping house plants is not an exact science. And I just want to mention that there's very few people that talk about green-fingered people. They talk about people that have a natural ability, and that does exist. But most of us are like me, love plants, but have no real idea how to keep them alive. So if you kill a plant, because nobody actually intentionally goes and buys a plant and then kills it just for the fun of it, it's lack of understanding, lack of knowledge. The information that you get at a garden center is very minimal. And so, yes, there is a lot to be said about doing your research, because getting a plant from an outside environment, for instance, say you get a plant from Indonesia. Now, in Indonesia, it's tropical. They're living under a canopy of trees. It's very humid. The temperature, even in winter, very seldom goes below 16 degrees. And now you're bringing it into a home environment in England, where seasons are very different. We have very cold winters. We have central heating that dries the air out. We have, even in a big 70s house like what I've got with these big windows, still not a lot of light. That's a whole other subject, which I'll get into another time. But if you aren't able to keep your plant alive, don't beat yourself up. It's not a reason to give up. I do urge you to, if you see a plant, do a little bit of research, take it home. If you kill the thing, so what? Get another one, because that's how we learn. I've learned some things love semi-hydro, some things don't. I've researched, I've gone down the rabbit hole of YouTube, and looking at what other people do. So I bought this cash pot the other day. This is the kind of colors that I'm going to be doing in my living room once it's finished. I'm sure you heard the knocking earlier. That's been a constant for the last few weeks, as we're busy redecorating the house and sorting things out. But a cash pot is basically a vessel that has no holes, that you put your plant in. Now it holds the water. Now you don't want the water to go all the way up the pot. You only want it about a quarter to a third of the way. And here's my water all got the fertilizer in, and I'm going to put it up to about just below a third of the way. There we go. There's my peace lily potted up. So I will do an update. We'll see if this one starts to, in about a year's 6 months to a year's time, start to shoot up lovely flowers like this one and start to look better. I am interested to see if there's any difference between them in a couple of years, between the lacquer clay balls and the finer semi-hydro. But we'll see. And I'd like to wish you good luck on your plant journey. I hope that you become as potty about plants as I am. Thank you for watching.